There are people who think the Bible should be taken literally, that it is inerrant. Those people haven't even read the first pages.
Wow, can you believe that this guy calls himself the friendly atheist? But after hearing him speak, I guess he's just friendly to other atheists. I don't think he's too friendly to Christians. So when I was doing my research on Genesis chapter 1, I came across this video, and I didn't think much of it at first because his response is usually very, very typical of somebody who misinterprets the Bible, doesn't really do any research, and then they just go ahead and draw up incorrect conclusions because they're taking the Bible out of context, or they just make up their own conclusions based on their feelings. But then I thought, why not make a video to give people another perspective? This way, you can listen to what he has to say about Genesis and the creation story, and what I have to say from a Christian perspective. This way you'll have a balanced view of both sides, and then you can determine for yourself which perspective is more logical and sensible. I'll leave a link to his video in the description box below. This guy made a 16-minute video, and what I'm gonna do is just break up his video into 4 separate videos so that it won't be so long, you know? So without further ado, let's get into it. This is the very first thing he said at the beginning of the video.
There are people who think the Bible should be taken literally, that it is inerrant. Those people haven't even read the first pages.
So he mentions biblical inerrancy, but he doesn't explain what that is. You can get very theological and deep defining what biblical inerrancy means, but what I want to do is just give you a very simple and meaningful way to look at biblical inerrancy. Biblical inerrancy basically means that the Bible is true and can be trusted in what it teaches and can be trusted with its intended purpose. To quote Paul in his letter to Timothy, he said, "But as for you, continue in what you have learned and have become convinced of, because you know those from whom you learned it, and how from infancy you have known the Holy Scriptures, which are able to make you wise for salvation through faith in Christ Jesus." One of the Bible's main objectives is to teach us that there is one God who is the creator of the universe and who reconciles man to salvation through Jesus Christ.
Let's just go through the first chapter of the Bible and talk about all the problems in it, shall we? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. Obviously, we could talk about the Big Bang and how God didn't just poof us into existence. But even if you think, as some Christians do, that God created everything at once through the Big Bang, none of this makes sense.
What's funny about this statement is that he specifically said, we can talk about the Big Bang and how God just didn't poof us into existence. But isn't that what the Big Bang is? A single point that just poofed out of nowhere and then poofed again for unknown reasons and expanded into the universe. If there was such a thing as a Big Bang, then that means that something came out of nothing. Wouldn't that be considered a miracle?
God created the heavens? I mean, that's a synonym for the universe. So God created the universe and earth at the same time, in the beginning.
So here's a common thing that people who criticize the Bible often do. They misinterpret it altogether, right? The Bible doesn't say that God created the heavens and the earth at the same time. That was something that he added to the text with no logical reason for doing so. Not only is that a misinterpretation of the text, but it's also totally illogical. Let me give you an example. I usually take my wife's car to get an oil change in a car wash, right? And the place where I go actually has a sign that says oil change and car wash. When I come home, my wife doesn't ask me, whoa, how in the world did they change the oil and wash the car at the same time?
Except the universe is approximately 13.8 billion years old, and the Earth is only 4.5 billion years old. I mean, if you rewind the tape, they don't have the same starting point.
Again, he's just misinterpreting the text and blowing it way out of context. The Bible doesn't say that the heavens and the earth have the same starting point. You know what? Let's just take a step back and let's just actually read what Genesis says. It says, "In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth." Here's what Genesis doesn't tell us. Genesis doesn't tell us how long the heavens were sitting there for. Could it be that the heavens were there for 14 billion years before God started to take action on the earth? Well, I think that that's a very plausible idea. Likewise, Genesis doesn't say at what point did God start forming the earth. But here's what we do know. All we know is that at some point in the earth's early history, God began to act.
And if you know anything about the early universe, darkness wasn't in the picture. For hundreds of thousands of years after the Big Bang, the universe was really, really bright.
Again, he's just misinterpreting the text. This is what Genesis says, and what he just finished reading. Darkness was over the surface of the deep. It does not mention the heavens at all in this sentence, right? So that just basically means that there was darkness on the earth. Here are some scientific facts that this guy just doesn't even mention in his video. Early periods, such as the Hadean and Archean eon periods, were times of total chaos. There were so many volcanic eruptions and meteor showers that it literally made the Earth's atmosphere so dense with ash, carbon dioxide, and other gases that it would have blocked out any light coming from the sun or anything else outside of the Earth's surface. Here's another thing that he doesn't mention in his video. According to geological studies, the Earth experienced at least 5 ice ages during its formation, some of which have caused the entire Earth to be totally encapsulated with ice. No light would have been able to penetrate past that ice, so anything beneath it was incapable of absorbing any light.
And where did this water come from that God was hovering over? The earth didn't have water until long after it was formed. It didn't come with a built-in pool. The early universe didn't have rain either.
Well, first of all, right, the Bible doesn't make any mention of rain. So again, I really don't know why he's adding that into the story, right? More importantly, this comment actually contradicts scientific geological discoveries. If you go by these scientific discoveries, they will tell you that the oceans were present on the Earth as early as the Hadean eon period, which goes back to about 4.6 billion years ago. Obviously, the oceans back then looked nothing like they do today. But to say that the Earth didn't have water until long after it was formed is actually contrary to science. You can actually check the references that I left in the description box below. So let me make some closing statements. You know, when it comes to the Bible, people have a hard time giving credit where credit is due. For example, there is a very interesting correlation between the creation story in Genesis and modern cosmological discoveries. Despite the fact that you had all these other religions who believed that the earth and all of creation was eternal, Genesis claimed that the heavens and the earth had a beginning. Science confirmed that centuries later. But the most interesting thing to me is this. Genesis says that the earth was formless and empty, and said that the earth was dark. When you research the ancient language, those words are basically describing the earth in a chaotic state. How is it that an ancient and primitive Hebrew civilization knew something like that, especially after science had confirmed that centuries later? I'll tell you how. It was revealed to them. By whom? Well, I think that the answer is obvious. In my next video, I'm going to continue my commentary on this video in hopes that I can give you some sensible and logical explanations of Genesis so that you can make your own objective, and I mean objective, determination as to what to believe. So God bless you, and I'll see you at the next video.